Welcome to Sunday Night Conversations, brought to you by D1 Baseball. I am your host, Michael Patrick Rooney. First of all, we want to say thank you to our presenting sponsor, and that is our good friends at Netting Pros. These guys are awesome. Netting Pros specializes in the design, fabrication, and installation of custom netting and padding for college baseball programs all around the country. Next time your field or facility needs something new, whether that be netting, wall padding, L screens, ball carts, make sure you check out our friends at Netting Pros. And I said this last year when we did this. These guys are, their service and their products are second to none. And on top of it, they love our sport. They love baseball. They are all in. And so, again, we were so appreciative for them to be the presenting sponsor once again. So before I introduce these four gentlemen, the stars of the show, if you will, let's talk about what we're doing. This is kind of version 2.0 of what we did last year, of what we called fourth coach conversations. And the essence of what we did last year was, hey, there's all the volunteer coaches in college baseball. They are the fourth coach on our Division I staffs, and they kind of operate in the shadows. So let's change that. Let's get these guys out here and present them to the public. And it was awesome. I had so much fun doing it. And this year we thought we would do it a little bit differently, where we're just talking to all kinds of assistant coaches, and we wanted to be more topic specific. So tonight's topic is going to be game management on the pitching side. How do you call pitches? How do you work with your bullpen? And I will tell you guys, I was a high school coach. I was a head junior college coach. I dabbled in calling pitches on those stops. I feel very confident in saying I was the worst ever. I mean, certainly, if not the worst ever, in the top 10 worst game callers in the history of our sport. But that's all right, because no one needs to hear my philosophy tonight. They need to hear you guys. So before we get into the topic at hand, let's go around the horn, and I'll have you guys introduce yourselves. And actually, I'll go in reverse order. I'm going to start bottom right. We got the great Coach Dave Lawn with us out of Arizona. So, Lonnie, go ahead, introduce yourself. Take us around your stops.
Okay, so Dave Lawn. I'm currently at the University of Arizona, starting my 8th year. Before that, when I got out of school at UC Santa Barbara, I went to coach at Contra Costa College for my high school coach, the legendary Larry Carrico. And then 2 years there. Then I had a 2-year stop at the University of Nevada, Reno, under Gary Powers. Then 10 years at the University of California, Berkeley, with Bob Milano. And then my last year there was David Esker's first year. After I left Cal, I went to coach with one of my former coaches, but then I became one of his assistants, Mike Gillespie, at USC. And then from 08, 9, 10, 11, I was the head baseball coach and senior director of formation at Servite High School. Then I was an athletic director for 2 years at Jay Serra. Then back at the University of Nevada, Reno, with Jay Johnson. Came down here with Jay, and I'm starting year 37. And I'm originally from El Cerrito, California, which is in the San Francisco Bay Area. Played at El Cerrito High School, go Gauchos. Played at Laney College, the Laney College Eagles for Tom Purse, and then Santa Barbara for Al Ferrer.
Oh,
Glad
so
to be
great.
on.
So for the listeners, you may hear me refer to Lonnie as CL, which is the acronym Coach Lon. Lonnie, you've been around so long that you just have this population in our sport that call you CL. So I have a follow-up question. This is an awesome point on your resume. If I'm not mistaken, you have been to Omaha with a Division I team in each of the last 4 decades. So please confirm that and give me the 4 teams.
Yes, it's true. 92 with Cal, 01 with USC, 16 with Arizona, and then 21 with Arizona.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's.
So you have to coach at least 8 more seasons, Coach
8
Lon,
more
to get into
years.
that.
I'm shooting for 5 and 5, right?
No pressure, Coach Hale, but in the year 2030 or 2031, we need the Wildcats in Omaha to keep the streak alive. So let's just put that out there.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Oh, that's awesome. Very good. Well, I've known Coach Lon for a long time. One of my all-time favorites. So that's good. Coach Claggett, go ahead.
Well, that's tough to follow up on.
Yes.
That's impressive. My name is Anthony Claggett, pitching coach here at Washington State University, going on 4 years now. Before with Coach Green, and before that, I was with Coach Green at New Mexico State, with 2 years there as well. So, very fortunate to work for Coach Green in Washington State. Would absolutely love it here. Before that, I had a stint at San Jose State, and then before that, got a chance to work and coach with legendary Dennis Rogers over at Riverside City College. And that's where I actually started coaching outside of playing professional baseball. So I got a chance to play for 11 years, played with the Pirates, the Yankees, and the Tigers. Very fortunate to get an opportunity to do that. And I'm a native of Palm Springs, California. Went to Palm Springs High School there. And then after that, I went to UC Riverside for college under Jack Smitherin, Doug Smith, Coach Checketts, Coach Benton, Coach Valencia. We had a tremendous staff. Really, really fortunate to play for them before getting an opportunity to play in pro ball. So absolutely love Pullman. Me and my wife are here and going almost on 3 years of marriage. And we actually have our first child on the way, 37 weeks pregnant. So like I said earlier, Runes, if I got to get out of here, man, it's because I'm having a baby. So, but yeah, really, really fortunate to be here. Thank you.
Oh, that's awesome. Hey, Clegg, so let me ask you this follow-up question. So I'm going to say this kiddingly, but I mean it in a serious way. Like when you and Brian Green were at New Mexico State, you guys had outstanding teams. I mean, just really excellent teams. And I think most people know it is really an extreme environment. And like I'm talking all caps, extreme environment. I coached in an 18-16 midweek game there one year where we could actually still be playing 12 years later. Like it was insane. So kiddingly, I would ask you that, was Brian very direct with you when he mentioned that, hey, most days there's 35-mile-an-hour winds gusting out to actually all areas of the outfield. But then I'm just curious, briefly, I would imagine there's a big psychology job there when you're coaching your pitchers that, hey, the goal is to win. The goal is not to have a 0.5 ERA.
Yes, that's it. The goal is to win, and that's it. Obviously we had a tremendous offense, really good. And even if without being an offensive ballpark, we had some pretty special offenses. So yeah, my job was easy. Keep it pretty much under 10 and we'll have a pretty good shot to win a ball game. So, but it has its challenges, and actually it really helped me grow being there as far as a pitching coach, and kind of the understanding of, getting a ground ball is a good thing, and doing some things like that. So, yeah, it definitely has challenge. Coach Green was up front with it, so I knew what I was getting myself into. But it was a special place to be at, for sure. Yeah, absolutely loved it there.
Yeah, that's you weren't kidding. Like those offenses were elite. So very cool. Coach Kribbe, go for it.
I do remember those nights at Las Cruces, being at Seattle University, and there were balls that sometimes just disappeared. They just didn't even know where they went. They just went a long ways. But Elliot Kribbe, pitching coach here at the University of the Pacific in Stockton, California, in the West Coast Conference. Appreciate being on here. Coach Lon kind of stole the show earlier. He is older than me on a coaching side. He's been coaching longer than I've been alive. So that guy's an absolute legend. But I certainly appreciate you guys having me on here. I started a little bit in a different path, very blended into some of these guys here as well on the show. But I started in high school and won a state championship here in Washington, and then kind of started to get my career going a little bit, moved to Texas, coached for a year, and then came back and built Seattle University, where competed against Coach Claggett and Coach Green for 5 years, and then coached at Purdue with Coach Wazakowski, who's doing great things at Oregon. And then the last 3 years I've been at the University of Washington, which is where my alma mater was, and have now gotten the opportunity to be at the University of Pacific and absolutely loving it. The sunshine has been great, especially for our bald heads, as you know. Mr. Rooney there, love it. And yes. So I'm excited, and it's just getting back to coaching in its purest form and really, looking forward to being able to develop these guys on another level and being the Tiger guy to be able to bring this thing back.
Hey, Craig, let me ask you, when you pitched at Washington, did you pitch for Ken Knutson?
I did, yes.
Oh, awesome. So Ken Knutson, nicknamed Snake,
Yes.
legend. Tell me a takeaway from maybe something about Ken Knutson, the way he coached you that impacted the way you coach pitchers.
Yeah, he got his nickname because he could always get himself out of a situation. He was a left-hander that, didn't throw very hard, so he always just tried to snake his way through things. But one of the funniest conversations I ever had with him, I was a walk-on, and Ken Knutson and my dad played together at the University of Washington.
Wow.
And I wouldn't say it was a favor to my dad by any means, but I think, within our first 10 games, I think I'd had 7 saves coming in from Columbia Basin College, where I went to junior college my first year. And I remember him coming out in the outfield and saying, hey, my plan was originally to have you be a team manager, and now you're our closer. So keep it going. And I said, hey, I apologize for ruining that for you. So that was one of my favorite moments about Kenny, but awesome guy. Obviously had a illustrious career at UW for 18 years and now in professional baseball. Great human being.
Yep. It's interesting. We're seeing a little bit of a trend in college baseball now where we've got some head coaches that are becoming assistant coaches. And I wouldn't say that's a new trend per se, but maybe it just feels like it's a little higher volume this offseason. And Snake, Ken Knutson was one of those guys 12 years ago at Arizona State. And man, oh man, he came there to work for Pat Murphy and then worked under Tim Esme and just did it's a good reminder that head coaches have positional strengths, and Snake did an unreal job with the pitchers at Arizona State after having been the head coach at Washington for 18 years. And like some guys, I'm thinking of guys like Seth Blair and Merrill Kelly, who's still pitching in the big leagues. Like these were not like turnkey guys, right? Like I don't know, man. Snake was a magician. He was so good. So
obviously Tim Lincecum, that's one that
that's more turnkey, Crib.
Yeah.
Like that. I saw him as a freshman. I think I could have coached Lincecum. No offense to anybody at UW. That was.
I always tell this story too. He had 199 strikeouts his junior year, and Cooper Jerpy at Oregon State had 161. Incredible year this past year. But I was telling our guys last year, I'm like, Tim Lincecum had 199 strikeouts. We didn't even make a regional, and he threw less innings pitched. I mean, think about that for 1 second. So,
Crazy.
As we're talking about Kenny Knutson,
Yep.
Yeah, that's a good right-hander.
His Lincecum's freshman year was the only year I got to see him because I had left Arizona State. But we had a good team. It was Pedroia's junior year. There was Travis Buck. There were big leaguers on that team. And if I'm not mistaken, Lincecum, he threw infinite pitches. There was no pitch counts for him. He was in such good shape. And it was like one of those little league outings, like 10 punch outs, 6 walks. Like there was almost no balls that were put in play. It was insanity. So, So good. Coach Weaver and the Villanova Wildcats. Let's go. Philly in the house. Go ahead, Javen.
Javen Weaver from Villanova. I'll be the East Coast rep tonight.
You got it.
Played at East Stroudsburg under Coach K. Got my start at Fairmont State under the great Phil Caruso. And then I was lucky enough to become a student assistant for grad school. My time at West Virginia under Coach Mazey, and spent time under Sabins and Derek Matlock, which was an awesome experience to watch him every day with arms. And then from there, I went back up to upstate New York, where I'm from. My wife and I are from, and took over the program at Hudson Valley Community College. Was there for a year and a half, had unbelievable guys there. And then from there, I came to Villanova for the first time, the first stint as the volunteer assistant, worked with the catchers, was here for the spring, couple months. And then that summer, my wife and I went down to Campbell, where I was very fortunate enough to spend a couple months as the operations guy for Coach Hare, which was, again, months that I'll never forget. Learned so much from him in that program. And then was fortunate enough, I was only there for a couple months and got the phone call and went back up to, came back up here to Villanova. Coach Mulvey, thank God, he asked me to come back up here, and we've been here now going on season 5 overall, season 4 with the pitching staff. Yeah, absolutely
Awesome.
love it up here. It's an awesome experience, and became a dad 2 months ago. So
Gotta
things
love
are
it.
great
Yeah,
right now.
We're bringing the dad vibes tonight. This is awesome. Hey, so Jabin, the league that you played in, and they believe it's called the PSAC. It's there's a really strong Division II athletic conference in Pennsylvania, because Pennsylvania is such a big state, and it's anyway, the PSAC. But that's a good baseball league. If I'm not mistaken, Westchester has won the national championship at least once, if not more than once. Who were the powerhouses when you were in the league?
Westchester won the World Series, I believe, my freshman year.
Got it.
And then Millersville's always a powerhouse. And it really, and then the West Side too is always loaded. I mean, my freshman year, Westchester had Joey Wendell, and I don't believe he was the highest batting average on the team that year. That's how good they were. Matt Adams for the Cardinals was on the other side of the conference.
Slippery Rock, the Rock.
Slippery Rock, yep, Slippery
right.
Rock. And somebody just brought up, Coach Mulv actually brought up Ryan Vogelsong the other day. He pitched at Kutztown in the East in the PSAC. And a former teammate of mine actually just advanced in the MLB playoffs, Matt Festa, coming out of the bullpen for the Mariners.
No way, he's a Strasburg guy? Oh, that's awesome. How good was he in college? Was he elite even for you guys, or was he more a slow development guy?
No, he came in and he just had kind of one of those phantom type injuries where it wasn't major, but nobody really knew quite what it was. And once he really got over that and kind of matured physically, I mean, the velo just jumped and he had an unbelievable work ethic to go along with it. And yeah, awesome. He was just a great person, great teammate. He just worked his tail off.
Love it. Oh, that's really cool. Gotta love it. It's amazing. Just everyone's development path is unique. It's amazing. So, all right, boys, let's get into it. So tonight's topic is game management for pitchers. So two of the big areas for me, and we'll see how we do time-wise, but, I want to talk about calling a game. It's like the pitching coach, especially in college baseball, and especially as we're watching these playoff games, just the intensity and calling the right pitch at the right time, and there's so many variables to that. And then I also want to talk about managing a bullpen during a game and, knowing when to get a guy up and how hot to get him and what's the right matchup. And, we'll get to the bullpen stuff in a second. So I'll give you guys a kind of a context for the question. So I become a junior college coach at Phoenix College, and I'm going to have to call pitches. Never done it before, really. And so I call Bill Mosiello, he's my baseball Rain Man. He's now the head coach at Ohio State. Like, he is the baseball savant. He's baseball Rain Man. And I say, Mo, I've never called pitches before in my life. Can you give me something that's not calculus 6 to just that I can lean on? And of course, Mo had a great answer. He said, well, go with this. He said, no one on base, go forwards. Fastball early, breaking ball late. Runner in scoring position, flip it. Go soft early, hard late. So there you go. I'm off and running. Made sense, right? Like, no one on base or no one in scoring position. Work, get your fastball going early, go to the breaking stuff late, then a runner in scoring position, flip it, and we're off and running. So the kind of the nature of the question, and Lonnie, I'll start with you, is and maybe that's oversimplified, like, feel free to refute that, but do you have kind of like a foundational something that is your starting point as you're calling pitches?
Well, I think first and foremost, you want to go with the pitcher's strength, and throw the most high percentage pitch early in the count. I think what's worked for us over the years is, you talk about situations where, like, nobody on, one out, and it's a 2-2 count. I would prefer our pitchers want to throw the fastball, because they tend to think they've got another crack at what they missed out on 0-2, 1-2. So everybody always tries to throw everything a little better in those 0-2, 1-2 counts. Sure. And then they want to throw a 2-2 breaker again. And now you're 3-2, and now you're kind of stuck. The other thing too is, basically in most games, there's not more than one hit in a game, in any inning. Okay. Generally speaking. So if you walk a guy before you give up a hit, well, now that's how the rallies develop, because a hit is usually coming. And if you've walked a guy with before you've given up a hit, let's say it's 1 out or no outs. Well, you've kind of shrunk your infield a little bit because you want to turn 2, and so you can get yourself in. The other thing too, I think is important about pitch calling, and I really believe this. I think the right pitch, the pitch that should be called, and we've all sent that in because we believe that's going to get the out, but isn't thrown with 100% conviction, is way worse than the wrong pitch with 100% conviction. And so, we give our guys the opportunity to, we let them shake. Now you do kind of have to earn it, but by the same token, we want some freedom in what they're feeling. And I think that's one of the ways you can minimize walks, minimize big innings, because in a way you're turning it over to them.
Yep. Oh, that's good stuff. Really good. Anthony, go ahead. What would you add to that? Or go for it.
Yeah, we have a lot of similarities in that, the freedom to shake on pitches. Just talking about that. These kids have to. They just can't. We can turn them into that at times by just calling pitch after pitch after pitch. But if we don't give them the freedom to shake or understand about situational pitching, what pitch throw in certain counts, certain situations. And obviously you got the ability to do that, but you also got to be aware of the thought process while you're trying to pick a pitch, and which one you would have good intent behind. To go along with that too, catchers, we're lucky enough to technology where we can do the pitch comm stuff. So there's communication with the catchers, and there's at times one will kind of let them, run the show a little bit. I might just give suggestions off a scouting report or IC, but they should have the best field back there. And hopefully you develop catchers that are able to. We feel like we do at times, and when time clock, pace plays really fast. So if a catcher's able to call pitches, that helps. And then to add the other piece.
At that point, Anthony, are you coaching the catchers on what to look for? Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I was saying, Anthony, are you coaching the catchers on what to look for? Like, what are some of those conversations like?
Yeah, we definitely are. They're in every meeting as far as when we break down scouting report, when we talk with pitchers. We'll have pitcher catcher meetings because they're in there and they need to be a part of it. They need to know and understand what we're up against. And again, if they're putting in the work, and they are really paying attention to understanding the information that we need to have to be successful, then we got no problem having them call pitches at times, if we feel it's right.
One more follow-up, Anthony. Have you ever had a starting pitcher, like not a reliever, where this person is not established the fastball guy? Like maybe there's another pitch that goes before the fastball, or is that like Haley's common almost? No, we certainly have. Obviously, you want to develop pitchers to have extreme amount of pitchability, a mix of 3 or 4 pitches, maybe 5 sometimes. But you also develop pitchers into what they can individually do really, really well, and then really go let it shine. We have guys that can really spin the breaking ball, and that might be their priority pitch. And fastball at times could be secondary to them. But when you have a weapon and you have a tool like that, I think that's what they're doing a little bit more in the big leagues now too. It's like you have a certain pitch and you just go to it. So I think there's some guys that we develop depending, most of the time they're relievers, but in that area where it's like, hey, you can really spin the breaking ball. We deem that it's okay on the arm, as far as not getting them hurt of spinning it too much. Actually, a higher velocity fastball is even worse for their arm. So things like that we take into account. But I personally like to teach the breaking ball. I think and throwing it the right way. And some of the guys have that as a priority pitch. Love that. Very cool. Man, I have some follow-ups just percolating, but let's keep it going. Crib, go ahead. Some foundations on how you would call pitches or how you do call pitches.
Yeah, I think that both those guys are right on the same page. I think it's really identifying your personnel, number one. I mean, you want good players. There's no question about it. And you want good pitchers as well. The world that we're living in now, with the recruiting aspect and whatnot, you want really good arms that can throw really hard, that can throw strikes, but usually you're asking those guys, hey, you tell me what you feel most comfortable throwing 2 pitches wise for strikes, and then we'll work from there. A lot of kids now, they want to get kind of sexy on the cutter, or working on different pitches, and we want them to be really good with 2 pitches, and then we'll put them in a sequence, to be very, very successful moving forward. So I think that trust component is really important now with this generation of young men that we're dealing with. So being able to identify what they have and then building off of that is crucial. And then certainly, when you're calling the game, I think the tempo is really, really important, but it's not assuming that these guys know anything or everything. It's teaching them everything that is going to happen to them. I mean, in college baseball, it's, you're watching professional baseball now for all the viewers out here. And what we go through on a 56 game schedule is professional baseball in the playoffs every day. I mean, every pitch, every inning really, really matters, where you're getting guys on first base and they're creating chaos. And I don't care if it's the #1 overall recruit in the entire country that doesn't sign and wants to come to school. They don't know how to hold runners. They've never been taught to hold runners. They don't know a lot of things other than, hey, I want to throw the baseball through the glove at really, really high speeds and be able to spin it off, which are great things you want to be able to add on to. So I think it's been able to identify who you have and then being able to mix and match those pieces. Every program is going to be different as our people are listening here, but I think the beauty of it is, a lot of people don't know where Justin Verlander went to college. He went to Old Dominion. Jacob deGrom going to Stetson. Logan Gilbert, big Mariner fan, going to Stetson. George Kirby going to Elon. Whoever's developing these guys, they're getting them an opportunity to pitch every single day and getting the opportunity to be able to build trust with them. And I think at the end of the day, that's the most important thing, is making sure that we're all on the same page here and that I'm going to call a pitch. Like for instance, the last 3 scrimmages we've had at Pacific, I want to make sure, hey, do you want to see a 3 or do you want to see a 2 when you throw your breaking ball? Because when I was pitching, I want to see a 3 because it made me feel more comfortable to be able to throw the slider for a strike. So everybody's a little bit different. Do you want to see a fastball arm side or a fastball in? However you want to call that. How do you want to see that from the catcher or see that on your wristwatch or however you're calling the game? Because everybody's a little bit different. And I think taking the time, and it takes a lot of time, of just making sure you get to know every one of your guys. And when you do that, you're building trust with your pitching staff, whether they throw 98, TJ Nichols at Arizona, holy smokes. I mean, that guy's really hard to hit, or 78 and your submariner. We all want to be able to know what it is that those guys can do in those situations and how to call that game to where they're looking at it and all of a sudden it's like, no, that doesn't make me feel comfortable. And we heard the conversation already. We don't want to call a pitch that somebody isn't convicted in, and so we want to be on the same page. And that's what we're really doing Monday through Thursday before we scrimmage, is making sure everything is into detail. I mean, Pete Carroll padding with his assistants with the New England Patriots, where every one of those assistant coaches knows everything about what those players are doing on the field at any given time. And I think our players want that too. And I think they earned that.
That's awesome. Yeah, definitely that's a great theme so far. So, Coach Weaver, go ahead.
Just to keep building off of that, number one for me is I need to know my players, both mentally and physically, as much as I possibly can, especially mentally, because obviously, for the most part, early in the game, especially for the starters, we're trying to establish, number one, trying to establish the second offering, whatever that might be. And then obviously the game plan might change here and there and throughout the game. But when things are on the line, and I need to know, even if I believe, okay, right now the fastball is the pitch to go to right here. But if I know in my mind that they're hoping I put down that slider or that curveball instead, then I'll do that. And I'll make sure that I try to put them in the most confident situations I can put them in, and just put them in situations where they can be successful as much as I possibly can. Because at the end of the day, they're the ones that are executing. They're the ones that are getting the outs. I'm not really doing a whole lot. I'm just, I'm putting pitches into the walkie-talkie. I'm making suggestions. They're the ones that are out there executing. So I need to know them as much as I possibly can to get them in the most confident situations that I can put them in as much as possible. And then physically, mechanically throughout the game, and even analytically, I need to know their stuff. I need to know what we're working with, the weapons we have. And then I also need to know what they do throughout an outing and throughout a weekend. If a starter, what changes throughout, if we have a high spin fastball third inning, does it drop in the fifth or sixth? If we reach a certain pitch count, does that change? Does the slider flatten out? Do we add more depth? Does the changeup get harder or slower depending on the pitch count? If a reliever pitches on Friday, tries to come back on Sunday, what changes with the repertoire then? I need to know that. So a lot of it is just educating myself on my guys, so I can help them as much as I possibly can and put down the right suggestions that I call them. And obviously what these guys are saying before me is, it's a ton of great info right now. It's all the same stuff, really, just different verbiage, but just putting them in the best situations we can possibly put them in, and allowing them freedom, allowing them to shake, obviously, and the catchers too. Our catchers can shake as well. Like, we got to sign for that. And we're just trying to help put the game plan together and communicate to all three parties and just get after it.
Hey, Javen, let me ask you a follow-up. So I love what you said about, kind of staying observant of their stuff. What are you actually working with that day? The pregame, the pregame bullpen, that pregame session, how much does that color your judgment, or 5 real pitches into the game, that is already out of your brain?
So I hate to call out a guy right now, but I'm going to, because last year we're at opening day and we're at Pepperdine, and Danny Wilkinson's on the mound for us starting opening day. And I can say this story because he's such an awesome kid. And he'll forgive me. And we're in the bullpen and he's dotting everything. He's got 3-4 pitches and he's feeling great. And he's really, really confident, really confident. And I'm like, all right, this might go well. It's opening day. This might go well. We're at Pepperdine. Great view, obviously. Like, all right, we're good. And we left there and we walked, I think, 17 on the day.
Oh, no.
Yeah, it was tough. It was a tough day for the Cats. So I really do not take much stake in the pregame bullpen. I really don't. The biggest thing I try to do is just make sure that health-wise they feel ready, they're confident, and then do everything we possibly can to get out of the first inning. That's the biggest thing that I've learned is I don't like to hide stuff. Obviously, game plans and try to establish and stuff like that. But for the most part, for me, that all goes out the window, and maybe get a runner on or something like that. I do everything we possibly can to get out of the first inning and just build a rhythm and go from there.
Love it. Hey, let me let's have some fun with pitch calling. So I'll even go first. So I want you guys to think of a pitch call that you'll never forget. So and mine's going to be negative, but I'm a high school coach. It's my 3rd year at Malvern Prep. We've still have not won our league, which makes me feel like the worst coach in the history of the sport. There's only 6 teams in our league. My first year, we had a first-round pick at catcher. Still didn't win the league. Might have finished 4th. Don't want to confirm or deny that. But
Davis.
so yeah, that's right. Benjamin Davis. We have the best high school player in the country. We finished 4th in the Philadelphia Interact. But be that as it may, so our 3rd year, we got a chance to win the league championship game. It's like 2nd and 3rd. We're up 1 in the 7th, and there's a kid, Kyle Cousins for Penn Charter, up full count. And he's fouled a bunch of pitches off. And so EJ Moyer, who's been there forever, just legendary high school pitching coach in our area, we grew up together. So me and him are looking at each other like we don't know what to do. We call breaking ball. Brian Skellen's on the mound. I think he's like a very successful businessman now, just awesome kid. Throws the breaking ball. Kyle Cousins just absolutely murders it into left center field. We lose the championship. And probably didn't get over it for at least 6 months, if not 30 years. And so that's one that I remember. At least EJ and I were in agreement on it, that we're going curveball there. But it did not go well. So it could be awesome. It could be one that is a game winner. But I want you guys to name, and Lonnie, I'll start with you. Name a pitch call that is memorable for you.
Yeah, 2002 or 3. Again, pitchers have the ability to shake. We're playing Stanford. Anthony Reyes is on the mound. He was the kid that got to the big leagues, won a game in the World Series for the Cardinals, beat the Tigers maybe. And we're playing Stanford. And the way to get John Mayberry Jr. for Stanford out was you just keep pound him in, pound him in, pound him in. So it's his third at bat of the day, maybe his fourth. Anthony's got a shutout. And I call for a bounce breaking ball. And he leaves it up. And we're winning maybe 5-0 or whatever. And he leaves it up. And Junior hits one out of the yard, 3-run homer. Reyes strikes out the next guy. He comes into the dugout and just totally buzzes my tower. We should have thrown an inside fastball. And I didn't say anything. He went back out in the ninth, got him out. So the next day, I call him up to the office and we have the video, right? And he sits down. I go, hey, man, I'm sorry. That was such a bad call, you know. Da, da, da. And I'm kind of, he's all feeling like, yeah, you right, you dummy. And I said, but Anthony, I'm pretty sure I didn't call this pitch. And I had the screen on my computer frozen. And John Mayberry Jr.'s like this. It's an eye-high curveball. And I said, I'm pretty sure I didn't call that, Anthony. And he goes, yeah, you're right. I said, why didn't you shake if you wanted to throw a fastball in? And so that was kind of a cute moment. And then, but one more. Last year, we're playing Nevada. Garrett Irvin shook 10 times on a 2-0 count to a curveball, and we were up big. I mean, we had a lead. We got out on him early, and so we were just trying to chew up innings. He shook 10 times on a 2-0 count to a curveball and was 10 for 10 on strikes. It was the most unbelievable thing. Man, I remember saying to him, man, you got more you know what than I do.
That's a very left-handed thing for Mr. Irvin. Well done.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Coach Claggett, go ahead.
Yep, it was 2018 at New Mexico State. We were in the Texas Tech Regional. We lost our first game, and we're playing the second game. Kyle Bradish is on the mound for us, who's in the big leagues with the Baltimore Orioles right now. And he's throwing a gem. I mean, an absolute beauty of a game. And you guys know Bradish, it's high electric stuff with a lot of swing and miss. So the pitch count was getting up there. But we got to the ninth, and we brought in our closer to face closer's a sidearm righty to face a left-handed hitter. We're playing Kent. And we're up 2-1. And Bradish just came out, just missed what we thought was strike 3, but ended up walking a guy. So he's on first base, and we bring in the closer, and we go. And I remember handing the ball to closer Brock Whittlesey, who's also in pro ball with the A's. And we looked at each other and said, it's backdoor slider, right? And he goes, yep. And so we were both on the same page. And he threw backdoor slider, and the lefty stepped into it and hooked it down the right field line for a 2-run home run. So we lost 3-2, an opportunity to win a regional game. So I'll always remember that call. But I do think it was the right call. He executed the pitch, and he was on board with it. So it just didn't work out in our favor.
Oh man! And that Texas Tech team they went to Omaha, right? I think they beat Duke in a super regional. And
yep, yeah, it was really good team, really very talented team. There was us, Kent, Louisville, and Texas Tech.
There's some good position players running around that regional. That would be a tough weekend to be the pitching coach.
I was just a fan. I was sitting back watching some good baseball. It's pretty special players.
Josh Young is on that Texas Tech team. Probably he's probably a freshman. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. They're the Rangers now. Yeah.
That's awesome. Very cool. Coach Kribbe, go ahead.
Yeah, this will be kind of an offshoot of everything. One of the best pitch calls that I've ever been a part of was one that I actually threw in an alumni game. Dominic Woody was our catcher, fourth rounder out of the University of Washington, very prominent, high school baseball coach in the Seattle area at Mercer Island High School. he calls timeout. We were playing the actual current team at that time. I think it was 2012. And he said, "Hey, I want you to throw a slider. I'm going to block it. He's going to run. I'm going to pick it up. I'm going to throw him out." And I'm looking at him like, okay, we'll see how this goes. And so sure enough, I throw a slider. He blocks it, picks it up, and throws an absolute rocket to second base and throws him out. And so I remember looking back at him like, holy smokes, man, this guy is got some, cojones, so to speak. And so really that was one of the most, there's been so many pitch calls. I can't remember them all from when I started coaching, is assuming all the other coaches as well could do that too. And you could just pick one, but that was probably one of the ones that was the most fun being a part of just being able to see there and sit there and, oh my gosh, this is actually happening. You predicted it and it actually happened. So that was one of the funnest ones I've ever been a part of.
That's awesome. I love it. That's, hey, trust your catcher, right? There you go.
That's right.
There's a lesson in there. Very good. Jabin, go ahead. Coach Weaver.
Biggest memory to this day, and probably will carry for a long time. My first weekend as a Division I pitching coach, my first opening weekend, we're at Arizona State, and we have them on the ropes 2-1 in the bottom of the ninth. And we intentionally walk Torkelson to load the bases with 2 outs up 2-1. And I have the lefty on the mound I talked about earlier. He's on the mound, and a true freshman. It's his first appearance of his career. And we go 3-2, and Halverson's lefty, Halverson's in the box. And we're get to 3-2. We're feeding him fastballs. And this lefty's got a great curveball, but it's a freshman, right? So who knows? It's 3-2, and Halverson follows up, I think, 4 straight fastballs in a row. And I turn, hitting coach and head coach right next to me, say, "Hey, coach, can I go to that curveball right now?" "Absolutely not." Another foul ball. "Hey, coach, can we go to it right now?" "Absolutely not." And I think the at-bat was about 11 or 12 pitches. He fouled off, I think, 6 in a row, 3-2. But we finally got the last one. By him. But yeah, I'll never forget that. Just awesome. 3-2 count, feeding him. I think it was like 5 or 6 straight fastballs.
That's awesome. And it was Trevor Halver is the kid you're thinking of, right? The left-handed hitter. Yeah, he was like a 4th rounder. Could really, really hit. That whole lineup was comically good.
Oh yeah. I tried to have a pitcher's meeting in the bullpen during their BP, and I had to move it into the dugout because I kept looking up. I couldn't speak because their BP was I'm just in the bullpen standing there. So we're going to move this. We're going to move this inside.
So your head coach, Kevin Mulvey, he pitched in the big leagues, right? Did he get I think he got to the big leagues, didn't he?
He did. He was drafted by the Mets, and then he was traded to the Twins. I believe he was in the Johan Santana deal to the Twins, came up with the Twins, and then he made some appearances with the Diamondbacks.
Love it. Oh, really cool. Hey, let's keep going. And God, I could spend all night on pitch calling, but we got about 13 minutes left. So let's do this. Let's talk about bullpen management. So Lonnie, I'll have you start us off. You can go anywhere you want with this, but my main curiosity is, hey, like they can't get hot unlimited times and then be effective in the game, right? So How do you manage that from pregame to during game to all those different types of things? Managing the bullpen when the game is dynamic and what the needs of the game can change in a pitch.
Yeah, well, first of all, I think the most important thing is everybody ready is not a plan, unless you're playing in an elimination game or something like that.
Sure.
And I'm early in my career, and I suppose we've all been guilty of this. You don't want to tell a guy that his role might not be very significant on a given day because you're afraid you'll hurt their feelings. But over time, what I've come to find out is that, look, you don't figure in this game today. So here's your plan for today, whether it's when we get out here before BP and get our work in, or it might allow him to lift harder that day or condition more or whatever it is. But and then from that, you be pretty specific. This is your role today. Okay. You're the middle guy, you're the long guy, or whatever role it is. It's really hard because generally speaking, we're recruiting starters, right. Generally speaking. Now you'll pull some relievers from junior college or a transfer kid or something like that. But generally this is uncharted waters for them, particularly when they're new. So you have to give them a plan for what to do when they're down there. And I got this from my friend Rob Wilson, who was the longtime head junior college coach at Sierra, and he numbered the extent of their readiness. So 1 was you're getting your body ready, 2 was you're playing catch, shuffling down the mound, and 3 you're getting yourself hot. And that's where it's tough, because as we all know, they want to throw more than they need to, and they do leave a lot. They can leave a lot in the bullpen. We're always reminding them, you got 8 out there, and we've been practicing since August 22nd. You're not going to make your curveball better and that sort of thing, which makes the importance of who's on the walkie-talkie down there. It has to be a pretty strong personality. We use the previous day starter. We did that last year, and I really liked it. I thought it was real effective. And but teaching them how to do it. I think I sent you something, Rune, where you talk about how to warm up in the bullpen. If the ramp up is slow and you're organized with it and you're constantly thinking ahead and you're not putting them in a situation where they have to get ready real fast, then I think they'll have some confidence in themselves going into the game. Because when you bring a guy out of the bullpen, there's traffic, it's a big spot, they're nervous, everybody's nervous. So we kind of try to embrace the nerves. You should be nervous. I'm nervous for you. So have fun with it, and you just give them little things to do, that'll help them kind of punch through that.
Love it. Coach Claggett, what would you, go for it.
Yeah, that's great. That's really good. I think first thing that really gets to the point where in spring where we're really confident about that bullpen management is just the development in the fall. And the thing we spend a lot of time on is just awareness of what the arm can do that day. It really is. It's a special tool, but everybody's arm, everybody's body's different. So we spend a lot of time, especially that kind of carries over to throwing program and stuff like that. But, how often can you get off the mound? At what intensity? And how often can you stretch it out and play long toss, which we're advocates of. So I'm very, our relationship with the pitchers, we are really making sure that if we're talking to them every day, I'm based on how they feel. How did you feel after going 2 innings in an air squad? How are you feeling after throwing 75 pitches and up and down 5 times in an air squad? Or how do you feel going back-to-back days? Or are you a second day soreness guy? So there's a lot of things to take into account that we really try to get to the spot where we feel confident going to the spring, but that communication in the fall with our pitchers. So then once we get to the spring, me and Skip are really good at communicating on a daily basis going into a game of who's hot that day and who can give us what. And I usually ask the pitchers, hey, what can you give us today? You threw yesterday, you threw 12 pitches, seemed like a pretty clean inning. Can you give us, what can you give us today? So Skip's always in full know of who's hot that day and what they can and can't give us. We like to try to really make sure that our guys are developed, that they can go back-to-back days or they can go 3 out of 4 days in a week. It's what you're actually training for if you get an opportunity to play professional baseball. You got to be pretty hot every day. So there's an understanding, obviously, of what a guy can be productive that day too. It's not just, hey, I feel great or I feel pretty good, or no, how can you be productive for us today too? And being aware of that. So, and the last thing I'll touch on is we're really matchup based. Hopefully you have a handful of guys out there that you trust from a mental standpoint, a pitchability standpoint, but really it's about matchups. We kind of like having going into the season, maybe you have 3 options at the back end based on what the lineup's going to look like. And so you have roles, you have some long guys, you have some bridge guys, but really we think that college baseball, if you need that big out in the 7th and it's your pseudo closer, that might be the biggest outs in the game. So that's when we might be able to use them. So we have a plan obviously going in like everybody does, but it's probably a little bit more on the, what can you give us that day? And then, pretty heavy on the matchup base.
Love it. Really cool. Go ahead, Coach Cribb.
Yeah, I think it's big on communication. Number one with these kids. Again, as the generation's changing, I think it's really vital to be able to talk to these kids. They're gonna not always want to hear what you want to tell them, but I think it's important that they need to hear the right things and the honesty of it. We can all sit here and say we'd love to have 12 arms on a staff. They're going to pitch throughout 56 games in a regular season. It's probably going to be 7 or 8. And you're going to have 4 starters, and you're going to probably have 3 or 4 relievers. Beyond that, you're trying to develop these guys in the fall. I think you're recruiting a makeup and a mentality. Yes, we want the guys that breathe fire and have great secondaries, but we want the mentality number one. And I think it's practicing too those bullpen scenarios. When you manage this thing, and so even in practice, hey, you're not going to get to play long toss during an inter squad, then go to your bullpen and then be ready, and then we're going to bring in the next inning. You need to practice as if, hey, we're on the walkie-talkie or however it's being communicated. You need to practice to get your 8 pitches, 10 pitches, and you're in the game. And so I think that's important. We'll actually practice running in from the bullpen so they can at least get an idea of what that feels like. When we get into, regular season play, when we're on the road, we'll practice, on a Thursday night when we get in there as far as coming out of the bullpen and what that looks like and what that visual aspect is. And again, we're playing 56 games. One of a former University of Washington player, Adam Simber, who led the league this year for the Blue Jays in appearances, at 70. We're asking those guys to be able to throw 30 times. I don't think it's too much to be able to ask those guys to throw 30 times, and we want to be able to practice that on a daily basis to where those guys can get up and down and to be able to put them in a situation to where they're going to have success. And I always tell our guys at the same time, too, I'm not going to put you in a situation where you're going to fail, because if that's the case, we're all failing and we don't want to lose today. So we're going to put you in a situation where you're going to have success. And if it's in the 6th inning or the 7th inning or the 8th inning, you're going to be the 6th, 7th, 8th inning guy that's the best in the country. And someone's probably going to draft you for that, and then they're going to deal with you however they want to deal with you in professional baseball. So I think it's training that mindset, but certainly practicing getting those guys ready for those moments, being able to get them in and out of the bullpen as fast as you can, less pitches on the mound in the bullpen, and get them into a game just so they can feel what it is that they're going to experience. And especially from a freshman or a sophomore or a younger guy, which is generally who's in the bullpen, those guys need to get more and more opportunities doing that on a daily basis in practice as we go. So I think it's doing that more than it is anything else. And certainly it's a matchup aspect too, and making sure that,
Sure.
if it's right on right, left on left, and we all get that type of stuff, and it's pretty simple. But I think it's being able to practice that on a daily basis to where, hey man, if you want to be a reliever and be good, give us 25 outings in the course of a year where you can go out there and be respectable, and somebody's going to pay you to do it.
Love it. Coach Weaver.
For me, I think it's the meeting before the meeting. One of the biggest things I've seen, especially this year and last year too, is really we need to define what trouble means when the guys are in the bullpen, and it says, hey, you need to be ready if there's trouble, or start getting hot if there's trouble. If you're the 7th inning guy and we have the 6th inning guy out there in the 6th, but all of a sudden, he's starting to struggle. A lot of guys, we may take for granted, a lot of guys, what they know that means is trouble. Is that just, hey, leadoff walked? Does that mean I get hot right away? Or, that's my roommate on the mound, leadoff walk. Like, he's got it. I got a lot of confidence in him. He's got it. I can watch him go a little bit.
Yeah.
So for me, it's clearly defining what that means and making sure, hey, when we're, if the game's a 6 to 8 run game, okay, that's different. If it's 4 runs or less, yeah, the leadoff walk, you need to start moving around. I love the 1-2-3 process that Coach Long mentioned. Just the communication. It's really what it's about, is making sure they understand what I want out of them and how quickly they need to be able to prepare themselves, how quickly they can be good for us in the game. It's not necessarily a Friday. If you haven't pitched all week, you're fresh. That situation in the bullpen, that program that they go through, that warm up might be different than if they pitch on Friday or Saturday, and then we try to get them ready again on Sunday. On Sunday, it's going to be a little bit shorter. It's probably just going to be get the blood flow and the heartbeat going as quickly as we can, and just do the minimum for you to be able to be successful on the mound. But it's all communication and just making sure everybody's on the same page, and having that guy on the walkie-talkie from the coach, the dugout to the bullpen, having that guy that you can trust. I love having the firm voice. That's huge. And just like I said, just making sure that everybody's on the same page and the kids know what we expect out of them.
This is a dumb question, but for just yes or no. So these kids are so used to throwing to technology in a game, but I didn't get to coach in this era. In a game, like, you can't have that in your bullpen, can you? Or you can, like people can have Rapsodo for the closer getting ready during a game. Is that allowed or not allowed?
I think it's allowed. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So you can. So I guess that's a whole. We won't cover that today, but that's a whole other can of worms. Is like guys trying to get ready, but being so technology dependent. I guess that could be good or bad, I suppose. So, gotta love it. What a time to be alive, gentlemen. This was awesome. Just like it did last year. I was curious to see how it would go, being very subject focused, but this mirrors what I experienced last year, where the hour blew by. I mean, it just absolutely flew by. And, like the way I've always looked at this is kind of the beginning of many conversations. I probably will ask to buy each of you a beverage at the convention and continue this conversation, which is kind of that is the parallel for these things. So really appreciate your guys' time. This was super, super fascinating. It's tremendous insight from you guys. So again, for the listeners, we appreciate you guys as well, and look forward to those next topics that are coming the next 9 or 10 weeks, depending on how long we go. Want to say thanks again to our friends at Netting Pros. They're who make this possible. Those guys do a great job, and we encourage everyone to support them. So that is it. We're going to wrap up. We will see everyone next Sunday night. We'll keep doing this all through the fall. And everybody have a great week. We will catch you next week. Take care.
Mike Rooney for Commissioner of College Baseball.
Yes.
Yes.
We're on board.
Yes.
Thanks, Rooms.
Very good.